All right, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about something you probably don't think about much, but it's a true powerhouse of the industrial world, the boiler. It's the engine behind so much of modern life. But inside this steel giant, a hidden battle is raging against a surprisingly simple enemy. I mean, seriously, how can simple water make solid steel explode? It sounds completely wild, right? But this is a very, very real danger. The secret is all about what's hiding inside that H2O, and trust me, ignoring it can have some absolutely catastrophic consequences. So what even is a boiler? Well, its job seems pretty straightforward. You take water, you heat it up, and you make steam. That steam then powers everything from giant manufacturing plants to our electrical grids. But here's the catch. As that water turns into steam, it leaves all the junk behind, and those leftover impurities become super concentrated and, well, incredibly destructive. And that right there brings us to the real heart of the issue. The very water that's supposed to fuel the boiler can actually become its worst enemy. So let's meet the culprits behind all this trouble. Here they are, the boiler's most wanted, if you will. First up is scaling. Think of it like a hard mineral crust. Then there's corrosion, which is really just a fancy way of saying rust is literally eating the metal. You've got carryover, where little water droplets sneak into the steam and cause problems later on. Priming and foaming, those are just violent surges of water. And then there's the most sinister-sounding one of all, caustic embrittlement, where the steel itself becomes brittle and just cracks. Now, while all of those are definitely bad news, one of them really stands out as the ringleader. It's the most common, the most costly villain of them all. Scale. This is the one doing the most damage out there, so let's really zoom in on how it works. So what is this stuff? You've actually seen it before. It's that hard, chalky gunk that builds up in your tea kettle at home. Now, just imagine that, but on a massive industrial level. It's this rock-like layer of minerals, mostly calcium carbonate, that literally bakes itself onto the inside of the boiler's pipes. And this analogy is just perfect. Seriously, think about it like cholesterol clogging up arteries. This scale builds up and it acts like an insulator, preventing heat from getting to the water. This forces the entire system to burn more and more fuel just to do the same job. It is a slow, silent killer of efficiency. Just how bad can it get? Get a load of this number, 50%. In really severe cases of scale buildup, that is how much heat transfer you can lose. Half of the energy you're paying for is just gone. It can't get through that rock-hard barrier. Wasted. So let's just tally up the damage here. You're wasting huge amounts of fuel, your boiler's efficiency just plummets, but this is where it gets truly dangerous. The metal tubes can't transfer their heat to the water anymore, so they start to overheat. They get weak, they can rupture, and in the absolute worst-case scenario, you get a catastrophic explosion. All of this just means more money, more downtime, and massive safety risks. Okay, enough of the doom and gloom. Let's talk about the solution. Instead of just cleaning up the mess after the fact, how do we stop it from happening in the first place? Well, this is where the really cool science of water softening comes into play. The whole strategy is actually brilliantly simple. Before the water ever gets near the boiler, we just need to take out the minerals that cause all the trouble. We're talking mainly about calcium and magnesium. If they're not in the water to begin with, they can't build up inside the boiler. So how do we do it? Turns out there are two main ways to tackle this. The first is called ion exchange, or the Zeolite process. You can think of this one as a really clever swap. The second is precipitation, or the lime soda process, which is more of a brute force method to just kick the troublemakers out. Let's start with the clever one. I absolutely love this analogy because it makes it so easy to understand. With the zeolite process, water flows through this bed of tiny resin beads. These beads are just loaded up with harmless sodium ions. So when the troublemakers, calcium and magnesium, come along, the resin acts like a bouncer. It grabs them, holds onto them, and sends a harmless sodium ion out in their place. The bad guys are out, and the water is now soft. Of course, after a while, our bouncer gets overwhelmed. The resin fills up with all those calcium and magnesium ions it's collected. That's when it needs to be regenerated. It's a simple three-step refresh. First, you backwash it to clean out any dirt. Then you flood it with a saltwater solution. That's what reloads the resin with fresh sodium ions. Finally, a quick rinse to wash it all out, and it's right back to work. So here's how the two methods really stack up. The zeolite process, on the left, that's your high-precision tool. It is incredibly efficient, it gets almost all the hardness out, and it's a really clean process, no sludge. The catch? The higher setup cost, and you have to keep buying salt. Then on the right, you have the hot lime soda process. This one works by adding chemicals that make the calcium and magnesium fall out of the water as a solid sludge. It's not as efficient, but it's a cheaper way to treat huge volumes of water. It's that classic trade-off, precision versus bulk treatment. After all that chemistry, it's pretty easy to lose sight of the big picture. Why are we going through all this trouble just to boil some water? Well, the answer has huge, real-world implications. The payoff for all this is enormous. By treating the water, you are maximizing your energy efficiency, which means you're lowering your fuel costs. That expensive boiler equipment is going to last a whole lot longer. And most importantly, you are drastically reducing the risk of those dangerous failures we talked about. It's just cheaper, safer, and way more sustainable in the long run. When you really think about it, we're waging this entire complex chemical war just to do something as simple as boiling water on an industrial scale. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other invisible battles, what other hidden feats of engineering are going on all around us every single day just to keep our world running?